TYTSports, we are so lucky to be joined by the star of White House Down, Ben Mankiewicz. Ben, how are you today?
It's good to be here, Rick. Thanks for having me on the show. Very excited about the film, working with a couple of just great talents in Channing and Jamie.
Yeah. Did you Channing all over his Tatum?
Who talks like that?
You don't know what that's from?
No.
Okay. No. Well, we'll continue. It's for the younger generation.
Yeah, apparently.
So, okay, Dwight Howard is probably going to Houston, it appears. He met with the Rockets execs. Hang on.
No,
I want to.
It's important to note that it's a mistake for anybody to go to Houston in any context.
Why?
Have you been to Houston?
No, but Al told me about it.
America's worst city.
Houston?
Houston. Am I right? Is there America's worst city? Just about?
You're starting off on a great foot with the audience.
Worse than what?
Worse than Houston?
No, I'm saying Houston is America's worst city. Yeah, pretty much. There we go.
Okay, so we're still going to talk about it. The Rockets executives met with Dwight Howard. This is where it gets kind of ridiculous. Hakeem Olajuwan and Clyde Drexler attended the dinner, and they Skyped in Yao Ming from China.
And Yao Ming video message from Dikembe.
Is that true?
Yeah, video
I
message
did not see that on Yahoo.
Dikembe. He probably said, "Don't come here."
No.
Yeah,
right.
No, they videoed in Dikembe, and Yao Skyped in, and then they brought the heavy guns in Drexler and Hakeem.
Now there are a few teams that can offer a max contract to Dwight Howard. One of them is the Houston Rockets. They tweeted. I pulled the Mankiewicz. They traded Thomas Robinson, so that was good to get him off the books. And then they got rid of Carlos Delfino and Aaron Brooks.
If they don't get him, it's a mistake to trade Thomas Robinson because they gave him away.
Yeah.
So,
and he's a first-round pick.
Yeah, and and he didn't show a lot last year, but he didn't
play.
Well, he played some. I was looking. He
much.
didn't show nothing. So I was sorry to see, as long as they were giving him away, I was hoping the Wizards, who almost drafted him last year. I was hoping the Wizards, but we got Jan Vesely instead. I don't actually remember. No, I guess Thomas Robinson's pick last year, right?
Yeah.
So we took Brandon Beal.
So this is going to be his second year.
Right. So we were considering Robinson, but we took Beal.
Dwight Howard to Houston. I mean, would that be a good move for Houston?
Firstly,
they're making Omer Asik available now because they probably got to get his contract off the books.
They released Aaron Brooks.
Yeah, I said they released Aaron Brooks and Carlos Delfino, and now they're making Jeremy Lin available to a few teams. If they were to get rid of one of those two and sign Dwight Howard, is that the right move?
Well, of course, what matters, yes. I mean, if the theory is you build the team with James Harden and Dwight,
yep.
And then you got and Parsons is coming too to this meeting, and that's a serious shooter who can relieve the threat.
Yeah.
Can take pressure off Dwight inside. So it doesn't really matter who the rest of the team is. Their thinking is if you get those guys, all those players you've named are essentially replaceable. Like, you look at a guy like Matt Barnes, who's a free agent now. My hunch is that all of a sudden, if the Rockets land Dwight Howard, then that becomes appealing to a guy like Matt Barnes.
Matt Barnes will go to Houston.
Maybe, but I mean, he wouldn't go without Dwight Howard. It doesn't make that much sense for them to spend money. But so they're clearing this cap space. Jeremy Lin proved last year that he's an NBA player, but he's not
elite.
He's not exactly a huge difference maker. And I guess the theory is that Lin and Harden don't work perfectly well together, that they both need the ball.
It was only their first year together. You never know what's going to happen.
I mean, they did all right, but I mean, who knows? I'm sure, if Lin is still there, if they can't find a taker, because that's a big salary, but I think he only has 1 year left.
Jeremy Lin?
I think he signed a 2-year. I think that deal that's stolen from the Knicks with the offer sheet was for 2 years, so there's only one left. Anybody can take anybody for 1 year because then they get the value of that expiring contract. So I don't imagine Jeremy Lin be that hard to move.
There's a rumor going on that Omer Asik is now going to get shipped off to the 76ers because they parted ways, it seems like, with Andrew Bynum.
No, they definitely. When they took
good
Noel.
Good suitor for Omer Asik. I mean, look, he's got a lot. He has talent, but the only thing he has right now is rebounding ability and dunking the basketball. His free throws are still poor.
Yeah, but you got to remember, Rick,
he doesn't have a lot of game thus far, but he's clearly developing.
Any team that has no inside presence will gain some value by getting him. But is he a difference maker, and is he going to be like in Philadelphia, who is tanking this season? Like, they're giving up. They're going to go 14-68, and they're comfortable with it because there's a great draft class next year, and they think, hey, we've just added Noel and Michael Carter-Williams. Is that who they did?
Yeah. They traded Drew Holiday to get Michael Carter-Williams.
Right, so they've traded their best player to acquire a 6'11", potential difference maker who will never make a difference this year. We know that. He weighs like I think he weighs 25 more pounds than I do. It's insane. But
that is insane.
Right. So if they get ASIC, who cares? I mean, it would help a little bit right now, but that doesn't seem to be unless and for long term that guy can help and he can still develop. Like you said, there's still room to develop, and it's an interesting inside presence if those two guys were on the same team together. I would imagine because they offer different types of interior skills, but the Rockets don't care about it. If the Rockets have to keep him, they'll keep him. What they need to do is clear the space. And interesting that they traded Thomas Robinson to clear that space ahead of time. That's how confident they feel that they're going to land.
Thomas Robinson to Portland.
That's how confident they feel they're going to land.